Welcome to Conversations with a Therapist. I'm Jennifer and I am your host. Today I am excited because my guest is someone you have all been anticipating. I asked this question on the poll and I asked guys if you're interested in hearing the story of somebody who has been through a high, what do you call it? A high control group, a high control movement. And you guys said yes, you wanted to hear the story of somebody in such a situation. And yes, that is exactly what I did. I went and found somebody to come and talk to us about being in our high control groups. And yeah, that is what we'll be discussing today. We'll be listening to my wonderful friend Adiel Kilonzi tell us about his story being in a high control environment, high control group, and how he ended up living. So karibu sana Adiel. I hope you can hear and you can see me clearly. Let me know that first before we even proceed.
Yeah, I can hear you and see you clearly.
Oh,
hope you can do the same.
Yes, I can see you, I can hear you, and you're glowing. Tupatie siri before we even start. Tupe Mwakenya.
Ni God, man. Say.
Ni God. Says the atheist. That's ni God. Says
Yeah.
that is quite interesting. So karibu sana Adiel to this platform. This is Safe Space Arena. As I have said, anybody who might not know me yet, my name is Jennifer. I'm a psychologist, I'm a writer, I'm a podcaster, and I am a content creator about mental health on the internet. And this is my platform that I bring on interesting people to talk about interesting things, especially related to psychology, to being human, and everything in between. And so today I am joined by my wonderful friend whom I have known for so many years. His name is Adiel. He's going to be telling us about himself and about his experience being a Jehovah's Witness and what that was like. I have so many questions. The audience has so many questions. And if you never got an opportunity to ask your questions before, you can put them in the comment section. And you can tell us the questions you have for Adiel about Jehovah's Witness, about atheism, about being all of those things, and about being a glowing young man. So if you have questions about all that, if any comment section. With that said, Adiel, karibu sana to the platform. Karibu sana to Conversations with a Therapist. And I am the therapist, just for anybody who might not know. And yes, let's start. Adiel, tell us about yourself, a little bit of background. Who are you? What do you do? What is your background? What exactly do you do for work? Maybe and anything you want the world to know. Maybe this is a good time for you to let us in on that.
Yes, asante sana. So thanks, actually. It's a pleasure for you hosting me on your channel and your platform. And I think I'm a fan of what you do, mental health and everything. So with relation to this interview, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I was born in the Jehovah's Witness faith, and I left, that is in the year 2019. Currently, I'm an atheist, so that means I do not have a God belief. That is where I am currently at my life. On what I do for work, I can say I'm a data analyst, so that is what I do for work. Data is my thing, data, AI, that's where I am currently.
Oh,
so awesome. Maybe I can just say that briefly.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. You've mentioned that you left Jehovah's Witness, but before we get to how you left, maybe we can start with how did you end up as a Jehovah's Witness? Maybe that's the first part we should talk about before we even talk about how you left. So tell us, how did you end up being in the Jehovah's Witness?
As with many people, according to statistics, it shows that most of us follow the religion of our parents. Mm-hmm. So I was born in. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, so they got married in the church. So when they found me, that was all I knew.
Yeah.
Going to the Kingdom Hall, that's what they call their church. Going to the Kingdom Hall, coming back. Yeah, we had our book study. So back then, we just enter into the routine. Book study on Tuesday, some other Kingdom Hall service on Thursday, Sunday, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So that's how I got in.
Oh wow, okay. And what is the day like in the life of a Jehovah's Witness? A day in the life of a Jehovah's Witness. Tell us about what that looks like, because I'm very interested in knowing that. What does it look like? A day in the life. Or a
So
week in the life. You can even expand it to a week in the life, because you mentioned about the Bible studies. Let's do a week in the life.
let me say, it does depend also with where you are in the faith and a lot of things like your work, your secular work. So you find that, but and then it has also changed since I was young. When I was young, we had three. We used to call them meetings, or three. We can call their church services basically in a day. So there was the main one on Sunday, and then there was one on Tuesday. The Tuesday one was called a book study, and it would consist of not the whole church, but we can say like 5 to 7 families meeting together at someone's home, and there was a book that was being discussed. Then now on Thursday we would have again now the whole church. That's when they would have now the training. On Thursday it was mostly about the training to come preach to you guys, and then yeah, that was the cycle. Then now back again to Sunday. Sunday now they would have their services was divided into two. They watched the public talk, which was like 45 minutes, but now it's 30 minutes. And then the Watchtower study, where now you have a question and answer, but the questions are printed, the answers are also printed, so no room for self-expression. That was how it was, and that was how it was. But they got rid of the book study. That's the Tuesday meeting, where people were meeting in small groups. So now they only have 2 meetings, Thursdays and Sundays.
Okay. And this Watchtower, what is it like? What is it about Watchtower? Like, we've seen the material, the reading material. We have heard about it. But could you explain to somebody who is not a Jehovah's Witness what a Watchtower, what it is about Watchtower? What is that, and why is it important to the movement that is Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah. So the Watchtower, actually, the Watchtower Bible Tract Society is now, we can call it the entity, or it's a society that now owns the printing, all the infrastructure of Jehovah's Witnesses. But the Watchtower magazine, it's a magazine that was started by the founder, Charles Taze Russell. So he took the analogy of a watchtower. You see, when there was a siege a long time ago in the city, they would have guys posted on the watchtower so that they can alert if there are armies. So he took that analogy that he was announcing that God's kingdom is coming back. Now, what you may not know is that there are 2 kinds of watchtowers these days. When I was young, it was only one, but they changed that. There are 2 kinds of watchtowers. There is the public edition, which they distribute to you guys on the outside. And then there is now the Watchtower that they study in the church, that is on Sunday. Yeah.
And what's the big difference between those two?
Those two, the one for you guys has article for you guys. It's we can say, you see, they used to have like, it was one watchtower, so there were the study articles inside and then the other information. But then they were like, I think it's better if they give you guys what you already know. And then, like, you see, the watchtower, maybe it can show things like what creation teaches us about God.
Yeah.
Like, then it's not getting that deep into their theology. But then now, the study articles or the ones they use are now, because they have the question and answer, if they want to make an adjustment to the current doctrine, now they'll do it through that watchtower and elaborate on what the new understanding is. They usually call it new understanding, or the best term they usually use is new light. So when mistakes have to be fixed, that's how they do it, through the watchtower.
So does it mean that in the beginning, what you're given, like if as a regular human being, I'm just walking down the street, I meet a GW and they give me a document, that document does not have all the information that I need for me to know what exactly Jehovah's Witness operates on, like what are the standards that they use to operate? Is that what you are trying to say?
Yeah, you will not have any clue on what they are, the depth of their doctrine.
Yeah.
This is just there are some things to just like rope you in. You see, they'll show you, the first thing is maybe their steps are maybe first of all to find a common ground with you.
Of course. Yeah.
What do you agree on? Do you agree that the Bible is okay? Do you like the Bible? Okay, yeah, we have common ground. Now from there, now they start showing you that, you know, guys are not really representing the Bible as it should. And that's the second point, like get you to see, oh, actually, I think these guys have something that I never knew was there. Now, once you're in, and slowly by slowly, now they take you now to their deeper doctrines as you learn. Actually, they have changed the books that they use to study with people. But when I was in, there was a book called the Bible Teach Book. That was the full name was What Does the Bible Really Teach? It was the first book that you're supposed to cover. Then now from there was a book called God's Love. Now the God's Love book was the one that really goes deep into their doctrine, why they believe these things. Like the Bible Teach Book will touch on some key doctrines and some that are controversial, but way later. But it will gloss over it. But then the God's Love book now instills to you, like now you have to know about the you have to know about the culture. You need to know about like how to obey the leadership, why it's important to be loyal, and all that.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting because now you've brought in the concept of cults. You've brought in the concept of cults. And for anybody who's listening, by the way, we have done an entire series about cults. You can go to our YouTube channel, or you can go to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the episodes that you've done so far. And you're going to understand a little bit about cults and how they operate. And some of the things that Adiel is talking about, like the doctrines, the indoctrination. It takes time. You're not indoctrinated the first time on the first contact that you have with whatever movement you're joining. And now that you mentioned cults, I don't want to be the one to say it because I want to ask you, do you believe that Jehovah's Witness is a cult, or is it not a cult, in your opinion? Because I have read so many articles on the internet. I did when I was doing the research for this cult series, I did a whole readathon of some sort to understand different cults and how they operate. And I kept asking, is Jehovah's Witness a cult? Because I know there are other parts of different churches, other sects of the churches that are considered cults outside of the church. So for example, I know there are people who consider the Opus Dei, I don't know how it's pronounced, the Opus Dei that are in the Catholic Church. There's a group of people that consider Opus Dei to be a cult, yet it is held within the Catholic Church in general. And nobody thinks that the Catholic Church is a cult. But again, when you zoom out, there's a school of thought that believes every cult, every religion, every organized religion is a cult. So there's that group, that school of thought that you can't convince them otherwise. They believe that all religions are cults. It's just a matter of time, only that they've not been found out, or they are not regulated well enough, or all these things. So in your opinion, Jehovah's Witness, is it a cult, or is it not a cult, or is it something in between? What is it? What is it about Jehovah's Witness?
Okay, when I think of cults, I think of it as a fluid concept. So I think it's not that it's binary, that it's either cult or not cult, but I feel like most organizations will fall on the spectrum.
Yeah, that's
like they'll have some that are on this end not culty, and some are really, really culty.
Yeah.
But then I feel like there are some that are too much on the culty side that I can comfortably call them cults.
Yeah.
Like now, the Jehovah's Witnesses would fall on what I'd call cults on my spectrum.
Yeah.
But I believe that, it's for me, I feel like every organization will fall somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the organization is, what they do. There'll be some, because again, with an organization, you need a structure.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly there'll be some things that will make it culty.
Yeah.
But then how culty it is depends now on the particular organization.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was just looking at again, you're gonna hear this for those who have not listened to the episode. Go and listen to the episode that talks about how do you know if it is a cult? How do you know you're in a cult? All those things, and some of the characteristics of a cult. I won't quote all of them, but I'll talk about some of them. So, for example, there's the charismatic leader. There's always a charismatic leader in a cult, but when a movement has been big enough and has existed for a long time, you can end up having a governing body instead of a charismatic leader. So, for example, the Catholic Church does not have one leader, or apart from the Pope who is holding like the Catholic Church Pale Jew, but ordinarily it's not just one person that it becomes the commander, you know. So you find that most organizations, when they have grown and the original leader is gone, you get like a governing body of some sorts. And another characteristic of a cult is that there's usually a lot of deception and manipulation, and there's groupthink, and there is isolation, and there's rituals and practices that are only specific to that cult or movement, and there is imminent doom. It's always announced that there's something that is, the world is coming to an end, or Jesus is coming back. Like even when you look at Shakahola massacre, there was an entire story about how people need to fast so that they can get to Jesus, they can go back to God, because the world is coming to an end and all those things. So there's usually this thing for imminent doom and rituals and practices that are very specific to that cult or that group. There's isolation, there's group thinking, deception and manipulation, and this charismatic leader. Out of these characteristics, which ones can you pinpoint and say you've seen them in your former church?
So the Jehovah's Witness have a lot when it comes. If I list, I know the model you're using, so maybe for the sake of your viewers, I know when you started this series, actually your very first introductory episode, you mentioned the BITE model. So BITE model stands for behavioral control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. So these tactics, and these are like the acronym to remember. Then there are sub-points within. And I think this is how actually you can measure, when I said cults fall in a spectrum, how culty the organization you are in is by looking at those points and how many of those points they check. So for the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't have a charismatic leader, but now they have morphed into the governing body. And it's actually called a governing body. That's what they call it. So they have a governing body. They are now, initially they were like 8 men in New York. One was kicked out and they added 2 more. So now there are 10 men. There are now 10 men in New York who controls the body of doctrine and everything within the Jehovah's Witness world. So that is, they are very strong on that. Manipulation, that's something that's always there. You'll find that maybe, I feel like manipulation also has like I can also put in information control within manipulation, because you find, as I told you, there is you can see right from the beginning, there is the Watchtower that is given to the public, and then the Watchtower that they study within themselves. And when you ask them, they'll tell you, but this material is available on their website. But you see, it's not that readily available. You have to go to their website, know how to navigate, get together, and you won't actually know which one is. It will take now some time for you to start knowing which one to get, which one not to get. But it's a information control, because not many people would go that deep to check it out. And by the time you're that deep, most of the time you're already starting to believe their claims. And then you find that there are some materials, like let's say, you'll find that, let's say, like when it comes to now, for example, I was, once a male is baptized, that is a man within the Jehovah's Witness religion. Once you're baptized, now there are 2 steps you can go for us ordinary folks. You first become what they call a ministerial servant. Then from there, now you can be a church elder. The ministerial servants mostly take care of the routine things in the church, that is handling sound, handling video, taking care of attendance, ushering people in, like those routine tasks. And then the elders now are the decisions maker for that particular church in that area. or they prefer to use the term congregation. So you'll find that once in a while you would have meetings for elders and ministerial servants. And then there would be some meetings for ministerial servants. And you see the way how they talk during these meetings is not the same way when you have the other guys around. Like, you see, like we are usually being called, you see, you are appointed men. We have been appointed by the Holy Spirit. So I'm telling you, they make you, at this time, they make you feel a little bit higher up. Then you can imagine now that I was privy to that. Now you can't imagine what the elders were being told when they're up there. Because, yeah, actually I was in training to be an elder, but I didn't get there quite there yet. That's when I accidentally woke up. So
Yeah,
that
is quite
yeah.
interesting. That is quite interesting. Especially the part for deception and manipulation that you've just highlighted. Is there imminent doom among Jehovah's Witnesses? Is there like God is coming back, or there's no imminent doom stories?
So with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have been constantly from their inception saying that God is coming back. And there is this phrase that they use, it's just right the corner. It's just around the corner. So I remember there was even an XJW meme, somebody saying it's just just around the corner, and it's a merry-go-round, so
yeah,
there's no corner.
There's no corner.
So there's imminent doom. Armageddon is near. God is coming back anytime soon. So they are actually, for them right now, they're being told they're so close to the end. And then any small thing is usually associated with the end.
Yeah.
Like when Corona came to them, they were like, wow, I think this is it. After this, we'll just see, because they're waiting for something they call the Great Tribulation. So they just think that any precursor, and you see the thing is, how they put it is, world conditions are getting worse, according to the Jehovah's Witnesses, ever since 1914. And it's getting worse. It will keep on getting worse. So when you see things going worse, just remember the end is near. But then again, if you see things getting clear or getting better, there's a scripture in First Thessalonians they use that just before the Great Tribulation, there'll be a period of peace and security. So either way things go, it's always a sign that the end is near.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is quite interesting. That is quite interesting. So thank you for shedding some light on that, because I know there are many people who don't understand how some movements work, especially people who are outsiders like the rest of us who are not in the Jehovah's Witnesses. There are many people who will not understand how it works. And thank you for sharing that, because now we have a little bit of understanding. I'm very curious about what happens when you question authority within the Jehovah's Witness movement. Like, for example, you've been told something that you do not agree with as a layman, or as an elder, or somebody who is taking care of the congregation, all those things. What happens if something is said or done, or a rule is sent from above, and you do not agree with it, or you have questions about it? How is critical thinking and questioning taken in this movement?
So first of all, when it comes to, it depends. Okay, there are rules. Depends with who is setting the rules, and where, like, how high up it came from. Rules from the governing body are not to be questioned. They are not to be questioned at all. The governing body they have the absolute say. So if you're in the if rules come from the governing body, they are not supposed to be questioned. These are God's representatives. They are God's representatives, and they actually like speak on behalf of God, if you listen to how they put it. Now, the thing is, actually there is I can call it a drama that Jehovah's Witnesses have. It's an reenactment. And this is the story that the leadership usually pushes. That they put themselves, let's say, like at the same situation as Moses. So there is this story in the Bible where there are three guys, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, rose against Moses. And then so Moses said that, okay, God will choose. And God actually chose, and he sent fire to consume that is Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And then he opened up the earth to swallow the other guys who are in the rebellion with him. So you can imagine they try to show you that questioning the authority is like actually questioning God. So that's how bad it is. That and actually the drama, they call it respect Jehovah's authority. So you can tell if it's talking about them, then they're Jehovah's authority. Disagreeing with them is outright apostasy. And there is nothing that Jehovah's Witnesses fear more than apostates, because they're told that apostates are evil, apostates imitate Satan, apostates, all we do is lie about the organization, and what we are doing is like we are trying to get people out of God's church so that we can go and be killed together during Armageddon. So
for
they
those who
call
might
us
not know what is an apostate, for those who might not be familiar with that word.
an apostate in the normal English word or normal English lexicon just means somebody who left their faith. So suppose I was Muslim, I leave Islam, go to Christianity. From the Muslim perspective, I am an apostate. If I leave Christianity, go to Islam, from the Christian perspective, I am an apostate. But to Jehovah's Witnesses, an apostate is actually somebody who they fear, because they have been taught that this person is somebody who, first of all, hates the truth, wants to take people from the church so that they can go be destroyed together. And there is a term that they use, even in their literature, that apostates are mentally diseased. So that's how bad it is. Now, when it comes to how they are taught, they are actually taught, there are two words that feature a lot in the Watchtower: loyalty, submission. So you're told to submit. They use words like have a yielding spirit. So as when you try to disagree with something that, let's say now this is on at the local level, an elder gives you an instruction, then you're supposed to submit. And you see this, if you try to do otherwise, you're shown as haughty, depending with the instruction. If it's something that they took from the Watchtower, then that can also go the direction of apostasy. But it may be something small, like the elders tell you, I want this row arranged this way. And they're like, you disagree and tell them, I think I would like it. They say, you know, we want it that way. And then you still go ahead and question. The next thing you'll hear is you're being haughty. You're not yielding. You need to submit. Yeah. I think I can't hear you. I don't know.
Yeah, wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's quite interesting. So I know people are very curious about the big question about how you left, and maybe we should jump into that now that we have spoken about apostates and how you became an apostate. I'm putting that in quotes because it's really quite fascinating. How did you end up leaving Jehovah's Witness? When did that start? What is the thing that you mentioned in the beginning? That's something that you finally woke up. What was that like? What are the things? What are the steps that led you to the place you are right now? Starting from the day that you actually started researching and thinking about Jehovah, like what put the seed of doubts in your mind about the entire movement? Yeah, walk us through how that happened and how you ended up leaving the church in general.
So the thing is, okay, I'll always say that, you know, you always have questions. As a Jehovah's Witness, I use also to go out and preach. And, you know, there are some things that I would clearly see. I'm like, this thing is in the Bible. I'm reading it to you. How can you not see this? Like, some things are there, like, I'm like, this is actually the scripture I'm reading to you. How can you not see this? And, you know, I was seeing that a couple of times. You're also curious, do I also have some cognitive spots? Do I have some cognitive blind spots? And then I remember, like, because, okay, Jehovah's Witnesses call themselves the truth. So they have the truth, they are in the truth. So I remember thinking, yeah, I know we have the truth, but how comes other people can't see it? What if there is something more truer than the truth I think I have. So I always had those questions, but they have always been there. And then you see, yeah, the way I tell you, we are discouraged from looking at apostate material. That even we are being told, like, if you're browsing the internet and see anything that is apostate, your first instinct is close off that tab. Just close off the browser. Like, don't look at it. Close, close, close. Don't be curious. Actually, that's what they say. Don't be curious. Remember, Eve was curious to know about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. See where that got her. So don't be curious. These are Satan's tactics. So I was always, sometimes I'd admit I'd be curious. And, you know, you really want to know what, I'm like, we have the truth. So why should I worry? You try, and I'm telling you, this programming is so intense that you try to watch or see something and you can feel your body shake because you're actually having you know, like an anxiety response, or like the flight or fight response is actually kicking in because of what you have been told about reading such material. So I think it would be akin to somebody if somebody who doesn't know about the Satanic Temple, a good Christian, and then you give them a Satanic Bible and tell them, "I have this book." That's how you would feel as a Jehovah's Witness trying to open apostate material. So I remember the other thing is I was now it reached a point, and I was doing something totally different. I stumbled on some atheist videos, and these were the videos were called "Messed Up Bible Stories" on YouTube. There's like a small YouTube series, and so I remember watching this, and it was, you know, they're making fun of something, but it wasn't really hard hitting. For most of it, there are some either minor issues I could discard, or some issues I could rebut. But I was like, okay. So after watching that series, you know, YouTube algorithm starts showing you similar things. So I landed on a guy called Dark Matter. Then I watched again one of his videos, and you know, now it got me curious. Okay, what do these atheists really believe? Because if I am preaching as a Jehovah's Witness, if I meet an atheist, how can I win over an atheist? Because I really didn't know I had vague ideas. I thought atheists believe there is no God, but why would they say that? So I was like, I need to know. So I watched some of his animations, and the thing about them is that, like, the animations, some are satirical, but he always puts scripture where if it's a Bible animation enacting something that happened, he will put scripture, and then there is like God, and then there is a small angel called Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is the one usually making the hard points. So I remember watching it, I'm like, yeah, some of them, okay. Then we go to the Noah's flood story. I think that was my somebody saying I introduced her to Messed Up Bible Stories. Yes, I did.
Yeah, Mary and Dati can recall that day.
Yes. Actually, I did show her that thing. Okay, it was fascinating, but it was one of the things I watched, and then so I remember after the Noah's flood story, how Dark Matter presented it. I was like, yes, he did raise a lot of points, and you know, Jehovah's Witnesses believe the Bible is almost literal. Just some small parts, like the okay, they're not really young earth creationists, but when it comes to the flood, they believe, yes, it was a flood, yes, it was global, everything was wiped out other than Noah and his family and the land animals that were in the ark. So that's what they believe. So I remember watching it, and I was like, the issues raised, they can't, for most of them, I can't rebut them because they were actually good. So now it led me to think, is there somebody who was a Jehovah's Witness and became an atheist? At this point in my mind, I think how it short-circuited the apostate response was that you see, an apostate, they are painted like people who know Jehovah's Witnesses are still true, but they're trying to take them people out for themselves so that they can be destroyed. So I think that's how it short-circuited the apostate response. So I saw a guy on YouTube. He actually covers cults and high control groups. So he was a former Jehovah's Witness. So he said he was just saying how he left, what made him leave. And then he mentioned a few things. And I was like he mentioned the false prediction of 1914, which that one I knew. The Jehovah's Witnesses, if you're a good Jehovah's Witness, you know about that because they have prepared you mentally for it. That you see, even Jesus' disciples were eager. Some of them thought the end would come at his time. So we might have made a prediction, but yeah, it's okay. We were just eager like Jesus' disciples. So 1914 failed. But then this guy said that, I think what stood out for me in that whole thing is that he said that after that false prediction, then he read Deuteronomy 18:22. Remember, this time I still believe in the Bible. So that verse says that when a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, or in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, they use Jehovah. That is what they believe is God's name. So when a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, and that word does not come true, then you will know the Lord did not send him, and you should not fear him. And I remember that stuck with me because I was like, yeah, this is now the Bible giving me authority to research on my own religion. Then he said that it also gave him time to research now on that was what gave him the leeway. So I was like, yes, I need now to check on this. And then he mentioned a few things, like one thing I never knew, like the Jehovah's Witnesses actually bought a house. They bought a house claiming that in 1925, Abraham, Isaac would return and live in that house. And that house is there to date, but they sold it. So I did a Google search, and there was like credible evidence. It's not just hearsay or how we have been told apostates lie. So that led me to, in my previous episodes, when I got curious, I got to learn there was a book called Crisis of Conscience. It was written by a guy who was actually in the governing body and left. So now I got the book and started reading. And I'm telling you, for the first few days, I was reading that book. I was literally shaking due to that response. But I went and I was like, if this is true, it will stand up to scrutiny. Right now, there's nothing. If it's not true, then I'll find out it's not true. Throw it away. Either way, my faith will come out either stronger with more truth, or then I'll get to find the true faith or anything. So I read the book and the points in there and everything. I was just like, yeah, because this was an insider. He actually knew exactly what happens in the governing body or used to happen then. So after that, I was, now I knew for sure I wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, but I was still in confusion because I now was also also questioning the Bible itself, other than Jehovah's Witness aspect. And then I had read the Bible before, and I had a lot of questions that had come up, like, when you read the Bible, and it's when somebody's not reading it for you, there are a few passages you pass over, and like, even we were still being told that you should think, what does this teach me about God? What does this teach me about Christ? What does it teach me about myself? How can I apply this to myself and to others? But then there's some parts I'm like, what really does this teach me about God? Why would God do such a thing? And I remember I would have such questions. I try to look through Jehovah's Witness material for answers. The answers are they're not satisfactory. They're just you can tell this is just a haphazard answer thrown at you to try and get your mind off the topic, but it doesn't satisfy. It doesn't give you the satisfaction that, I can explain something to you and you feel, okay, yeah, I understand it. So all these questions now started coming back. So now I remember, now I was like, okay, I've done this now, and I'm still confused over, it's something that's happening fast, because this happened in May of 2019. So by June, July, I think by then, by August, I already knew I wasn't, no, actually, from May, I think May, from May, I think in June, July, because I remember May when I just started reading, we had what we call assemblies. This is where like 7, 8, 10 churches meet together for one day and have like a day full of back-to-back talks with a lunch break in between. So I remember for like I had only read a few portions of the book, and for that assembly, everything already was starting to sound and look different. And I could see some of the weird things, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So by that time, okay, once I finished reading Crisis of Conscience, now I started looking at the Bible itself, and then I had a ton of Christian atheist debates, which led me to like watching like top university, like top-notch university people material, like those are people with PhDs on both sides by the way of the divide. Atheists, Christians battling it out. And after some time, I was like, from what I'm listening, the atheists are really getting this one through. I started watching a couple of episodes of Atheist Experience, and I think that's when I started watching Atheist Experience, there's a guy called Matt, and he really explains, like, you see the questions he asks, and you can hear how he asks the questions and his train thoughts. And that's when I realized that actually all I was doing, there are some answers that you have been given to stop you. We can call them thought-stopping techniques, which were done actually by Jehovah's Witnesses, because right from the Jehovah's Witness faith itself, we had thought-stopping techniques. So I remember watching that, and finally I was like, okay, yeah, no, I admit. It took me a while I easily admitted I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but it took me some time to admit I'm an atheist. And that's how I landed on this other side.
That is such a wild story. Thank you so much for sharing it, because I'm sure there are people who, if somebody had asked that specific question, they'd be like, how did he live? And I'm sure there have been well answered about how you left Jehovah's Witness. And it's interesting that this took a matter of months, considering the indoctrination had taken 26 years of your entire life. That is quite the turnaround. And I'm curious about how considering you got into JW through your family members, how was the experience coming out to your parents and your family members and the people in the church, and just being like, this is not my story anymore? And I'm also curious about when you started exploring these things, were there people that you could have conversations with them about the doubts that you had, especially within the church? Are there people you could have these conversations with, or were these conversations just between you and yourself, and you questioning and you reading without having somebody else to bounce off ideas with? How was that? So both questions about people to talk to, and also the experience about telling your family and your friends about your new life that does not involve being a committed elder of the Jehovah's Witness.
When it comes to people to talk to, it's actually very hard, because now you don't, you see, because of how they fear apostasy, the automatic response is when you come up with that material, and you'll find it even with Jehovah's Witnesses. When you start questioning, let's say they don't know you're yet an apostate, or you already know a lot. So you may ask a question, 1, 2, 3. And if you ask an elder, like, many people will tell you, okay, now go to an elder, because they think the higher ups know. But when you go to an elder, ask them 1, 2, 3. The next question will be, what have you been reading? Where are you getting this material from? Because that's after, when you hit too hard, they're automatically trained to start thinking, maybe you might be an apostate. And once they know when you go to an apostate, they instantly turn. There is no love, no nothing for the apostate. The apostate is it's like a bad grain, an infested grain that has to be taken out as quickly as possible to save the rest. So it's really hard for you to talk to someone. But one thing I actually had my sister during this. My sister had always, for her, she wasn't really deep into the religion. She was just there. So for her, she was just like, okay. When I told her, I remember I told her about it, like, hey, there's this book. And she was like, I want to see it. So I remember we had some conversations with her. And yeah, with her, it was actually, with her, we could actually talk. And then the other thing is that by then, my mom was also, with her, she still used to like go to JW meetings, but she was like, I don't know. Yeah, actually, my sister is in the house. Hi, Nisa. So my mom was like, yeah. So for her, sometimes she could go to church, sometimes she could not. So my dad was the person who was inside. So I think the main thing was how to break it to my dad. So I remember I decided first, let me test the waters. So as a Jehovah's Witness, I couldn't keep a beard, by the way. It's part of their control techniques.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's I know you knew me for the longest time without this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do. For those who don't
yes.
know, I know. For those who might not know, I know this guy for like over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So just hang in there. I have too much history. Yeah, keep going, Adiel.
So I remember the first thing I did was I asked him, because it's a rule that Jehovah's Witnesses, even the elders, try and enforce, you can't have a beard. And the thing is, I think I had written a letter to the elders telling them I want not to be a ministerial servant. I wanted just now to go back being a regular brother or a regular baptized person. That was my initial plan. So I wrote a letter to them. And what prompted me is that they wanted me to do a talk. And I knew I couldn't give a talk on Sunday. I had been doing them once or twice in a year, but I couldn't, with this new knowledge, there was no way I could do that. So I decided, I told them, I wrote a letter telling them I want to step down. So they took their time, and I knew what would get them to notice. So before that, I talked to my dad and asked him, Dad, what do you think? Why are we told not to have beards? We are told we don't have doctrines of men. Our doctrines are purely from the Bible. If you're having biblical doctrines, why are we not allowed to have beards? And he was like, no, it doesn't even look good. The appearance was like, but people accept beards. There's no one who will tell me that you won't take me seriously because I have a beard. So is it from? And I remember he tried and he saw that could not work. So I left it at that time. Then I started put a small beard strip. Now the elders came for me. Like after like 2 to 3, I think after 2 weeks, it was now clearly. Now they were like, hey, why are you, man? Why do you have a beard there? I told them, I don't see any problem with it. They now had a sit down with me and they're like, we have seen you have a beard and you want to step down. What's going on? I just told them, I don't have a problem with the beard. I want to step down. I just told them I want to improve my relationship with God personally. By then, I already knew there is nothing true in here, and I was already like really borderline atheist by then. I was really, I was a few inches there. So after that, now I just told my dad, because I used to go to their congregation, that is their church at their home. So after some time, I just told him, I think I won't be going to the Kingdom Hall any time. That's the church. But I'll tell you why. So now I know that concerned him. So now I just came and told him, you're my dad. I won't lie to you. I'll tell you everything, honestly. I've been doing a lot of research on this organization. I've checked what they call apostate material, and I found out that this thing is not true. That's why they don't want us to look at it. And so I've read this book, I've done this, and there are a lot of things that don't add up. I know a lot on this organization. So for him, it was just like, okay, why did you read that? So as the good Jehovah's Witness he also went to the elders. And now the elders, now this one, they called me now for what they call a judicial committee. Because now this one was, it's like a trial. So yeah, it was apostasy. With apostasy, there is only one thing. They're going to disfellowship you or kick you out of the church so that people know you're no longer Jehovah's Witness. You see, when you're disfellowshipped, people are not supposed to talk to you. This is whether it's apostasy, whether it's most of the times people are disfellowshipped for we can call it fornication or adultery. So that's the main reason why people get disfellowshipped. But during that time, nobody is allowed to talk to you. You can go to church, but not even a hi, not even a smile in your direction. You just go to church like until now. If it's for things like fornication, then after like 6 months the elders will see if you are repentant and return you. So when I say it's a close control group, that's how controlling they are. So but for me there was no coming back, and then I now came out as an apostate publicly, telling guys exactly what is wrong with the organization. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned about what happens, because I was going to ask you about that as well. Because for people who do not understand how high control groups work, it's and they keep asking, why can't you just rebel? Why can't you just walk away? There's that thing that you just said, the isolation that happens the moment you try to show, or the moment you do something that is not in line with the organization. So of course they use a lot of psychological techniques that we have covered in a previous episode. You can check out our YouTube channel again for this material. You're going to understand more of this episode once you've listened to the other episodes about the cult series that we've been doing. So that thing about high control groups is that they use these rewards and punishments kind of behaviors that are used in psychology, of course, to make you, it's a psychological manipulation so that they can make you obedient and loyal, because you are afraid that if I do something wrong, if I go against what the organization believes in, I will get punished. And the punishment might not even be physical. You might not be beaten by anybody. You might not be locked up somewhere. But the emotional isolation, where the people stop talking to you, the people stop saying hi to you. You go to church and nobody wants to sit next to you. You know, it becomes very isolating, and people don't understand how much power that has. And that can be used as a way to keep you obedient, because you can see what happens if you rebel, if you ask questions, if you do something that is not approved of. You can see what other people have gone through once they have gone against the rules. And nobody wants to be the one who's isolated. People don't understand how powerful the need for belonging is. And that's why it's very hard for people to understand, why can't you just leave? Why can't you just say no? It's not that easy, because the need for belonging is a psychological need that we all have. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem comes in when we start doing things that go against who we are just to meet that particular need. So it's very important for people to understand why it can feel so isolating the moment you go to church, and because you've done something that was deemed against the organization, the punishment is nobody's going to talk to you. Nobody's going to say hi to you. Nobody's going to smile at you. Nobody's going to invite you to their home when there's the Thursday meeting that is happening. And you see, you don't have other friends. Because then again, now that leads me to the question that I wanted to ask you about how you dealt with the isolation, the loneliness, the confusion, the people. Now you no longer have a Thursday thing to go to that you are used to go to. You no longer have a Sunday thing that you usually go to, that you are used to. And something like, for example, like in the Jehovah's Witness movement, you guys live as a group of some sort. You always go to places together. You always do these things together. There's that the community. And you know that you can count on your brothers and your sisters, because they will always be there for you, because this family has been formed and you know they are your people. So suddenly, you're no longer in this organization that has been your source of social connection your entire life. What happens? How do you deal with the isolation, the loneliness, and you're no longer, you don't have anybody you can call to say hi to, because they are afraid of becoming like you, because now you're plagued. So how did that turn? How did that? And considering for you it was 2019, so 2020 has just hit 2021. There's COVID, isolation times 2. Well, how did that entire thing tie together? Please help us understand that.
So I think okay, for me. Oh, but then let me just mention something I forgot. When it comes to guys, if I was talking to a few people, now this is what happens. There's a group on Reddit of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's a safe play. You know, with Reddit you can use alternate names. I used I think the name similarly to the name that I use here, because I was like, if you see my name in there, then you're also doing something in apostate material. You'll have to explain to me what you're also doing. So through that, imagine funny thing, through that I found I can say somebody that I knew loosely from within the Jehovah's Witness circles, and they may just have somebody's number, but you never really talk a lot. And then I got a message, and they were like, "Is this you?" So I was like, "Okay." So I said, nah, that can't be me. And then I was like, anyway, I'm kidding. You know for sure that has to be me. Are you also in that group? And they went, yes, I am. You, at which stage are you? Like, and they are, me, I've been out ever since. I don't know what. It's just that I've been in for the sake. So what happens actually with high control groups? Some people stay in for the sake that their family and all their friends are in there, but they physically don't believe it. Like in the ex-Jehovah's Witness world, we call them PIMO, physically in, mentally out. So I think I met like 2 to 3 people through who are now out, and now we could start talking to them, like talking with them. So that was what I wanted to add on that previous point. Now, when it comes to losing your friends, I think first of all, Jehovah's Witnesses strongly discourage you to have friends with people on the outside. So you guys, they refer to you as worldly people. You guys who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, so you're worldly people. So they don't have a problem with you hanging out with worldly people, but don't overdo it. Don't be too close to them. These guys are not your friends. These people do not know Jehovah. Or by saying they don't know Jehovah, basically they're not leading a good life according to how they define leading a good life. So that's one thing that also makes it hard, because if you truly don't have friends on the outside, you only have friends on the inside, and friends on the inside shun you, then what do?
Yeah.
You have no place to go. So that's why it's hard. But okay, the good thing for me, I'd say I'm a social being. So I had friends on the outside. I had friends on the outside. Like, like for you, I knew you even before all this. And we were pretty good friends even back then. So at least I had friends on the outside. And when I saw this, I was like, it's okay, I can lose. When that's I thought initially I'd try to fade, that is leave the church without really saying, but then just go on and then live my life on the outside. But then now once the elders came, I knew this was it. So with that, I think I accepted it. And then though it does pain a bit to see that, like, people who used to talk to trying to reach out to someone, and they're like, don't even dare talk to me. and it was really, I think there are some people that automatically I knew I'd lose, but I think for some, what really hurt was that some people were too close. Like, this person is the person who, I have an emergency, I go to them. They have an emergency, they come to me. And then all of a sudden they're like, don't even dare talk to me. So it was kind of hard. And I think that was it was a bit hard. But I think by then I had already made up my mind, and I was like, Anyway, I'll make new friends also out here. I'll also meet new people. I'm starting life from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is very courageous of you. And it's something that I keep saying that it's commendable when somebody is able to take themselves out of such a situation and build a life for themselves outside. That is very, very courageous because you're living everything you've known. And especially in your case, you're living something you've known your entire life, your entire childhood and adult life. So that is not the easiest decision. And I'm also glad that you had that support from the friends that you had made. As you said, you're very social, and we knew each other. You had other friends, and yeah, that is quite interesting. And I'm happy for you that you found a community that supported you through the entire process. I'm very curious about what your relationship is like right now with your family. Apart from your sister, of course, your sister is very accepting. And now, for example, with your dad and your mom, and the fact that they're still members of the church, and you are not, and you are considered the worst of the worst and apostates. So, what is your relationship with the family right now? How does it look like? Yeah, I'm very confused about that.
So with my mom, her she's not really in currently. Her now she I can say for her it's like now she faded away. For her, you miss a couple of church meetings here and there, faded away. So with her, that's how she got out of all of it. So she's not really there. With my dad, how him now with him, I think he's. I'd say we decided not to talk about religion. That was like that's like our rule. Because I remember like the initial days. What was a turning point was I think I posted something from an old Watchtower in the 1920s that was written, and it was very racist, saying that the blacks are a servant race, like they received the curse of Canaan, and that's why they are a servant race. They derive joy from serving, and that should be their position. It was actually a article, very racist, and I posted it there. So I remember this day. That's when my dad came from. It was, I think, now during COVID times. By then, so guys are working from home. I don't know him. I think he had gone to work shortly then, but it was the time curfew was still at 7, so we were all at the house early. So, and that time I think I had gone there for some brief reason. I don't know why. So I posted that day and continued with the day. So he came, and as he was scrolling through, he saw it on his timeline. So he was like, "Why did you post this?" And I was like, I mean, the question should be, why did they post that? Not why did they post it, why did they post that? So he was like, and I was like, okay, I told him, if there is any problem with that, and you show me where the problem is, I'll take down my post and issue an apology. So he had that, I think it first stunned him. He was like, are you sure this is true? I told him at the bottom, there was a reference of the exact Watchtower article, the day because they used to be numbered, like, let's say, I think they used to come out 1st and 15th of the month. So when it came out, which year, which month, which page, the full reference was there. So I think he saw that and he was like, okay, but what do we? But right now we don't teach that. We don't. Why don't you also post the current teaching? I was like, no, if this is what God said, then why did God make his people publish a teaching that again would be obsolete? So I asked him, okay, if this thing was it published by men's thoughts or by God's thoughts? And that's a conundrum for Jehovah's Witnesses, because these guys, the governing body, actually God's representatives. They like speak on behalf of God. They call them the faithful and discreet slaves. So they provide spiritual food to the rest of the other guys. So you can imagine. And then now there is, so this must have been from God. But then again, it's racist. So he just reached the cognitive dissonance, just hit him, and he told me, okay, we're having an agreement. From today, you stick with your atheism, and from today, me, I'll stick with my God. So that's how we decided religion is a no-no. We can talk other things, sports, football, Arsenal winning, but then when it comes to religion, that's a no-go topic for us, and I think it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Oh wow. I have to say that you have had such an adventurous life, if I may call it, especially on the religion front. And yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I really, really appreciate you coming out here and talking about it, telling us your story. That can be difficult and can also be very difficult for some people to hear, especially people who are still tied up in this particular movement. So I really thank you, really thank you for coming out here and talking to us about it, telling us your story, inviting us into your life like that. Really, really appreciate it. I want to first of all just point out something that I don't want people to be misconstrue about this entire conversation. And I want everybody who's listening to know that this is not an attack on a specific movement. This is not an attack on Jehovah's Witnesses. This is a conversation about Adiel's experience being a Jehovah's Witness and leaving Jehovah's Witnesses and moving to the other side of the spectrum, which is atheism. And this has nothing to do with, oh, Jehovah's Witness is this or the other. It is just he's telling us his experience about the entire experience. And also he's telling us about some things that we may not be privy to because we do not come from that. Some of us are not members of Jehovah's Witnesses. So if you've ever had questions, this has been a topic of discussion so that you can have those questions answered by somebody who's actually been there, not somebody who would be speculating. So that is something I want to state clearly so that nobody don't come from him and be, oh, safe space arena conversations with a therapist, you people are attacking religions. Please, no. We are not a religious organization, by the way. Safe Space Arena is not aligned to any particular religion, as we are a mental health company. That is what we are. And with that said, I want now to bring us back, as we come close to the end of this conversation, to the whole point of having this conversation, which is mental health. And my question goes to you, Adiel, about when you look at yourself back in 2019 and the time before that, and your mental health, and when you look at your mental health at this time that you are in this other side of the religious spectrum, what can you say about your mental health? How has it improved or not improved? What has changed? What have you learned? What have you gained? What have you lost when it comes to mental health? And yeah, what has been your mental health journey like, before and after leaving a high control group?
So I think personally for me, I'd say the worst point is right there in the middle, when just when you find out this thing is not true. I think that's when it hurts the most. That's when I think that's when I went through, like I can say internally I was going through a lot, because it's a place where you reach and realize that there is, it has all been, it feels like your entire life has been a lie. So everything crumbles down. You don't even have an identity. Who are you? Because as in some of the deepest questions you could ever have, like who are you? They were all defined to me by my religion. You asked me what I wanted to be. I was in line I wanted to be an elder. I wanted to marry a lady from the church. As usual, Jehovah's Witnesses usually marry within. So they are usually told, it's very highly discouraged, and you can even get, let's say if you're an elder or a ministerial servant, you'll get removed from that post for the fact of you didn't marry a Jehovah's Witness. So I knew my life. I was going to be an elder. I was going to marry within, get some kids and raise them as Jehovah's Witnesses also. But then now you can imagine all that has crumbled. So who am I? What are my core values? Yeah, my core values, I liked, there's some things that I liked because being a Jehovah's Witness, I had to preach. I usually liked to teach people actually about teach them. I believed I was teaching them about God. So this was who I was. But who now am I? What are my core values? What do I define as good? What do I define as bad? So you just find yourself, I think you sink into, I can call it like a small depression, but because you're at this point where you don't even know who you are, you don't know your core values, and then now you say you went like from Jehovah's Witness, question the Bible, so came out this other side of atheism. So I'm trying even to find out how do I build my own moral compass, because it had been distorted by the Jehovah's Witness. Let's say they're big on things like premarital sex, but now with my newfound values, I can't see really what's wrong with that, other than okay, somebody who believes in the book will tell you the book says it. But now, how how do I find this wrong? How do I deal with these things? Uh, so for me, it was, I think at that point that was the worst point. And then I think crossing over to atheism. Now the fact that I had been taught that, let's say, like people who I had lost in death, I'd see them again. Uh, I knew that at least they'll be resurrected and everything. So the realization that this may probably never happen was again crashing. And I can say I actually like felt like I was remourning everyone I had ever lost again. It was like I was remourning them again. And then now, I think that was just the worst part. Then it's like you have to go through this deep chasm before now you rise through the other end. So once that was over, I think slowly by slowly now I was like, okay, now I can have these guiding principles to define my morality. Now my life is up to me. I don't have to live by the rules of other people imposing it on me. I have to only live by rules that one are acceptable to me and do not harm any other person in the society. So I think slowly by slowly, then I found myself now, and then enjoying that the fact that, and then now I am now free. Right now, maybe today I would be thinking, there is a piece, a 5 minute segment I have on Thursday that I'll have to prepare. Sunday I need to wake up and preach. I love preaching sometimes, but sometimes you're tired and you just want to sleep, but you have to do it now. I have free time, so it was actually, I actually got a plus out of it, and finally I think I came through the other end, and I appreciated the journey that I had gone through. But I'd say that was the worst time. But would I go through it again? Yes, I would, because it was like a time that forged me who I am now, and it also enabled me now to be free and have this better outlook that I have on life currently.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's that. Thank you for highlighting that, and also for telling us about how difficult it was. Because it's very easy for somebody to listen to this and be like, "Oh, Kuba, it's that easy. I can just read a few things and then I'm good." But it's important that you highlight that there's a spiritual and psychological journey that you go through that can change your entire outlook of life. That can make you question the foundations of your entire life, and can send you on a different trajectory than the one you imagined for yourself. And yeah, thank you for sharing that aspect, because it's very, very important that you understand it's not just a physical journey. It's not just dropping the Watchtower documents and putting them aside and just starting to believe something entirely different. There's a spiritual journey that you have to go through, a journey that can be quite depressing, a journey that can be very isolating, very lonely, and all these things. And yeah, that is an important aspect for people to remember. So what is it that you do in this current day and time that helps you deal with your own mental health, that makes you feel mentally stable every single day? How do you make sure that you are taking care of your mental health on a daily basis? What does that look like?
So I'd say right now, first of all, I think another thing that helped is I can see Duro saying it's a daily journey, yeah, which it is. One thing that helped is I think with time when I got out, I found some also ex Jehovah's Witnesses, not only on Reddit but some from Kenya. So we formed a small group which actually now helped us, get because we are people who have gone through similar paths. The other thing I'd say is that it's also good to listen to like the journey that other people have been through. Then you realize that it does hurt, but you're not alone. Many people have gone through that same thing. It's depressing, and I'd say actually for many people, if you can, please go to therapy. Therapy does help, as in therapist especially, and find a therapist who has an open outlook. They'll help you to go through some of these things. It doesn't matter if they're religious or not, provided they have an open mind. You don't want to go to a church therapist. That, yeah, that does help. That does help a lot. And then I'd say for me, there are small things. Okay, I read a lot. I tend to read a lot. I tend to listen to many things. So for me, I think personally, what makes my life worth living is that I love learning. So constantly, personally for me, my passion is learning new things, abstract concepts, just looking at guys explaining some of the beautiful things that exist in the universe, in life itself. And I know, it does seem ironic to hear this from an atheist, but life in itself is beautiful. You can imagine, I think right now I have a deeper appreciation for the fact that what it has taken for us to be here, like all of us here having this conversation, all of us being alive at this moment, what it does take are astronomical odds, that the fact that we are here at this place at this time. So that is one of the things that just gives me appreciation. The fact that out of all the odds, I happen to be at this universe at this time, and I do exist at this time, is just awesome for me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. And I like what you've mentioned about finding community as well. On top of everything you've said, which is brilliant, especially the part of understanding that life is beautiful, there's an essence to life that cannot be explained. And it is having that sense of wonder, being able to experience life and realize just how small you are and how big the universe is and how lucky you are to be alive at this very moment when any number of things could have happened and stopped this from happening. That is something that is too spiritual to even get into. It's too magnificent. So yeah, and I like also what you've said about community, finding a group of people who have been through a journey similar to yours or even different from yours, but closely related to the journey that you've been on, and getting that support from these people. Because there's something that we say in therapy, there's something that I say a lot, that we heal in community. And so I highly encourage everybody who's listening, find a small community around you that you can build around you, that can work with you in life in general, but also specifically some of the challenges that you go through in life. Isolation does not make the journey easier. If anything, it makes it harder. Of course, there are situations where you want to go through something alone so that you can figure it out for yourself without having too many voices entering in and marking the waters. But we heal in community. There's no denying that. And there's a lot of research that says that we heal in community. So highly encourage. Find a community. It doesn't have to be 10 people. It can be 3 people. It can be 2 people. It can be somebody that you know that you can always go to. Find that person and always know that community makes it easier for us to get better. And so, yeah, highly encourage that you find community. And thank you for bringing that up, Kilonzi. That's brilliant. As we come to the very end of this conversation, I'm very curious about what message you have, Adiel, for people who are still in the Jehovah's Witnesses, who might not have gotten out yet, because of course there's a bazillion people who are in the movement, but maybe somebody is in the Jehovah's Witnesses and they are questioning some things, or they are trying to discover this other side that has nothing to do with the church. What message do you have for those people? How can you, what can you say to them? And not just Jehovah's Witnesses, by the way, this is for highly controlling environments that they are in. What can you say to them about living, or about life after living? What message of hope do you have for them to help them realize that it is okay for them to actually find that life is bigger than that small environment that they live in? What message do you have for them about that?
So one thing I'd say is that first of all, the truth will always stand up to scrutiny. If something is true, it will always stand up to scrutiny. Let's say Einstein's relativity equations. They have stood up to scrutiny. That's why we call it Einstein's theory. In theory, in the scientific sense, means that it is actually something that has been rigorously proven. Predictions have been made upon it and tested, and they have come out to be true. So something that is true will always stick up to scrutiny. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to find answers. And let no one tell you that you can't ask certain questions. Ask as many questions as possible. The best thing I say is, I think for me personally, people ask me questions like, so how do you believe the universe started? And I'll tell you plainly that at this point, my answer is very simple. I don't know. I'd rather ask questions than I do not know than have questions that I cannot justify. So do not be afraid to ask questions. Ask as many questions as possible. And then the other thing is that there are communities, at least I can tell you that for sure. If you want to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, or you have reached at that point where you are starting to see these things, but you don't know who you can talk to, you can always reach out actually to me. And I know if you go to Safe Space Arena, maybe they'll give you my contact, and you can always reach out to me. I can show you a community of people who left, and whether now it's religion in general. I'm also a member of there is a new group we are registering. It's called the Skeptics and Atheists Society of Kenya. So that is also a safe space for people who have left now religion in general, because there are other challenges that are unique to atheism that may not be unique to just Jehovah's Witnesses. And there are things that are unique to Jehovah's Witnesses that are not unique to atheism. And by the, like in the ex-Jehovah's Witness group, not all of us are atheists. We still have some who are still religious or still hold to some spirituality views. So that is also one thing that I'd like to say, that it's not that everyone who lives necessarily goes straight and direct to being an atheist. So I tell people to keep on researching, to keep on to know that there are people like you out there. And also the other thing is, I think if you're in one of the high control groups, or if you see guys telling you not to be particularly close with people on the outside, I'll tell you that please just try, see if those people are truly as evil as they portray them. So you'll find that they are normal people just like you and I, and maybe they may not conform to the group, but that's all in the design of the group. They give you some rules to make them look different, so that you can feel this us versus them. But I'll tell you, be friendly with everyone. I think I tell guys also, like, it's also better before you leave, make sure you have started building a community of guys who can help you through the journey.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I like what you've just said, which is I'd rather have questions I can't answer than have answers I can't justify. I think that is a very good mantra to live by, because if you can't question, then what's the point, right? You have to be able to question things. And if whatever group or movement or organization you belong to does not appreciate questions, does not appreciate critical thinking, it's time to rethink where exactly you stand, because you don't want to find yourself in situations that you can't take yourself out of. And again, nobody can really teach you how to live this life, because nobody has a manual. We are all trying things out. So nobody can come to you and tell you, I have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. So I keep saying to everybody, be like a scientist, just have hypotheses that you're willing to test. Do not strongly hold to your hypotheses, because the thing is that research eventually proves what hypotheses you can accept and what hypotheses you can reject. Sorry. Research proves what hypotheses you can reject and what hypotheses you cannot reject. So truth is very it's something that you should not be seated there and saying, I want the truth, I want the truth. Sometimes you might not have the truth, but you can have hypotheses that cannot be acceptable and hypotheses that are acceptable. So think about it that way. Do not feel that anybody has all the answers for you. You need to question, you need to ask questions, you need to be curious. Ask questions about everything, if possible. Question everything, question your assumptions, question your beliefs. Put everything that you believe into the test and be like, why do I believe this? And what is the evidence for it, right? And that does not mean that now you become an apathetic person who does not believe in anything and you're just there gallivanting. No, that's not the meaning. The meaning is question everything. Take it literally like that. Question every single thing that you believe in, and be open to hearing new answers. Be open to getting new evidence. Do not feel like it's an attack on you personally when somebody has different evidence from what you believe in. So highly encourage open-mindedness and critical thinking. If you've been listening to this entire conversation, I am happy that you've gotten to hear this entire story. If you have any questions so far about everything we've been speaking about, please listen to the series. It's a 7-part series that we already did, and it's on YouTube. It's on every podcast platform, and you're going to understand where we're coming from and what got us to this conversation we're having today, so that you can also understand how do cults work. Why are you an easy target for a cult? What makes you an easy target that you could be swayed tomorrow and you're in a cult very easily? Go read about some of the things you're spoken about, how to help somebody who wants to leave a cult, how to help yourself to leave a cult. All these conversations, you've already had them. So check out the series. Highly, highly, highly encourage. So Adiel, thank you so much for coming to the live. It's been a pleasure having you here. I have enjoyed talking to you for such a long time and for giving me the time, your time that you could be using to do other things in your life. I highly appreciate it. I want to say thank you, a big thank you to Maclean and Manuel, Mike Opondo and Patricia. 6-year-old is not 3-year-old. I don't know what that means. Talia Wamoyo and Ezra and Shami, Mary and Dati, Afro Mapenzi, and Joki Mary, the Empress, Rindanu, Wainimo, and Nisa. Thank you, Nisa. That's a family member. Thank you, Nisa, for coming through. And Obandala, sorry. And Kigwa, Adam, and Nitsa, the one, John, and Victoria Munguti. Thank you so much for coming to the live, for listening, for telling your friends to join the live. Very highly, highly appreciate it. John's Onduro says, well done, Kilonzi. Keep sharing the fact that non-religious and non-spiritual individuals are also human and that it is normal to have questions. So thank you so much, Jones, for that specific pointer. With that said, thank you very much, Adiel, for coming to the live. I really, really appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. And I am happy that you are a big questioner, because I feel that that is something we have in common. Asking questions, we are not afraid to ask questions. So thank you for coming to the live and sharing that. I don't know if you have a parting shot before we end the live, something you want to say before we say goodbye to everybody else. This is a good time for you to do that.
So thanks a lot for inviting me, and tell guys also, probably if you're watching this and you have been going through this, remember therapy is important, and Safe Space Arena is also a place where you can really, really get help. So thanks everyone for watching, and I think with that I can just say bye.
Asante sana. Thank you, Adiel, and for the guys who have just joined, catch the live. It's going to be everywhere on every one of our platforms, and I will see you in the next episode of Conversations with a Therapist. Remember to like the show, subscribe, book a therapy session. It's all in our link in bio. Everything is in the link in bio. So thank you very much. Have a good evening, Adiel, and I'll see you next time. And goodbye to everybody who has listened to the live. Bye.